should we be preparing to slash your price and just get out from under that thing?
In a downward trending market, if it continues to go down and you don't adjust your price, the market is stealing equity from your home.
What you want and what the market's going to give you are two different things.
The market doesn't care about you. And I know that sounds kind of mean to say out loud, but the buyer in the market doesn't care.
It's like catching a falling knife. There's no good way to do it. You just gotta do it.
So raise up your glass to the Tom Storey Show, where Steve and where Tom give the wisdom they know of the cottages humble and mansions so fine, and whatever else happens to cross all their mind. So raise up your glass to the Tom Storey Show.
Welcome back to episode 203 of the Tom Storey Show. Happy St. Patrick's weekend. I guess it's not technically the day today, but we are getting close. Hopefully everyone is enjoying some green beer, some Guinnesses. We have dressed up for the occasion. I'm your lucky charm today. Steve is, what are you, Steve? What is that on your head?
These are my shamrocks. Come on.
Shamrocks, very nice.
I got shamrocks down here too on my necklace.
Well, you look just fantastic. And this week's guest is Mike Turner. He's got a Jameson shirt on today. Reppin' Jameson. I love it. The Irish whiskey. Mike is the broker owner of a LePage in Gander, Newfoundland. Mike, I remember meeting you for the first time. You probably don't remember this, but we were in Portugal, and it was probably the first espresso martini I've ever had in my life, and everyone was drinking them before we went out. And I sat down and chat with you. I was like, this guy is awesome. So I know you're aware of the show, and we've been chatting over the years, and it's a thrill to have you on here, man. So thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks. Great to be here, actually. I watch you guys almost every Sunday, so I enjoy catching up on what's happening in the rest of the country.
Awesome. Well, give us some outlook. Like we were chatting kind of before we hit record here that Newfoundland is its own separate thing, and it doesn't really get a lot of national coverage on the housing market. So, early-ish 2026, what is the housing market there?
It's interesting. I mean, I've been selling now. This is year 16, and I've never seen such low inventory. We're normally the other end of the spectrum. There's always too many houses to sell. So I think here, St. John's, much of the island. I think the board just released the report. Listings are down 27% for this on last year, and last year was at a record. So we're heading into the year with just record low supply. So very different than a lot of the country.
And is that pushing prices upward right now? Like I guess we'll get into the specifics in today's conversation, but are prices going up still?
Yeah, prices are still going up. Yeah, we're at record low inventory, record high prices right now.
Crazy. It's so funny how like the rest of us are the complete opposite. And then there's like Newfoundland, parts of Quebec that are doing amazingly well. And like certain areas that I would guess, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but during the decade plus that Ontario and BC went on their tear of housing prices going up, you guys were kind of just not a lot was going on. Like you weren't in the same market conditions that we were in previously.
Yeah, like I've sat around like committee tables and everyone has to give like their market report of what's happening, and I'm like 13, 14 months of inventory. It's like really bad, and like now it's like the complete opposite. I'm hearing you guys struggling with inventory and we're at record lows. So it's just it's very different for me to have such low inventory.
Be honest, are the agents that are not from Ontario and BC, are you looking at us struggling right now saying like, well, they had it coming, they were living too good for too long? Are you like watching us squirm over here?
Not really squirm, but I mean, I've been in your shoes, and it's just amazing that like Newfoundland market is better than Toronto and Vancouver right now. Like that's just crazy.
And so did you see like during the craziness that we went through in the pandemic where everything went up and now has come down, and any gains were kind of wiped out at this point? Did your market do the same thing? Was it going up like crazy during that time frame?
So we had a bit of a different experience. So we had like a lot of supply going into it. So our sales exploded. Like we would do 2 years worth of sales volume in 1 year. So 2021, 2022. Right. So our prices didn't move as much as you would expect because we had the inventory to absorb the demand. But as that sort of, you went through, we did like 5 years worth of sales in 3 years. So all of a sudden we just ran out of inventory. So now we're starting to see prices go up. And during COVID, it was very hard to build. So like building hasn't kept up with demand. And it's like, we're really busting at the seams right now because we've had such an influx of people and everything. And then the economy's been doing well. I think we led the country in our GDP last year, which is very unusual for us. So we've just got like all the factors coming at once to really drive up the housing market and prices and stuff like that.
Well, someone had to be productive, Steve, because Ontario and BC is not really helping with those GDP numbers. Someone had to do something. So thanks.
Did your GDP go up or did ours just get destroyed? So you guys kind of just stayed the same?
Oh, it's actually going up. There are some things happening like with our economy. That's we still got to have a record high level of debt. I mean, we're certainly coming from the collapse of the fishery. Like there's just been a lot of structural issues here, but our economy is diversified, is changing. So we're hopefully on the upswing of a decade of really declining down prices, and that's what kind of had us in the high inventory levels that we had going into it. So we're sort of getting we're catching up to the rest of the country to where we probably should be, I guess, is more where we are.
Is it Newfoundlanders coming home when there's not work other places, or is it mostly a bunch of people you don't want to come to the Rock to come they're new to the Rock and they're coming from Ontario or coming from somewhere else where it was unaffordable, so now they're going to make your place unaffordable?
There was a bit of both. So I mean, we have a very displaced population. So I think a lot of people heading into COVID, they're like ready to retire, but it's like they just keep going. It's like, well, one more year. And COVID was the catalyst that was like, okay, I'm selling my house, I'm moving home, I'm retired. So there was a lot of that. And then there was also it was always like people that won the lottery. So I just remember it got really crazy. It was like somebody from Toronto phoned me and they were talking about selling their house and moving to Newfoundland. Like, have you ever been to Newfoundland? They're like, no. And I'm like, okay, this is getting really crazy now. You've never actually even set foot in Newfoundland. You're selling your house in Toronto and moving to Gander. So it got pretty crazy for a while. And people had to buy sight unseen, and it was just,
they're buying that just on price. Like they're looking at that and going, like, I'm moving from Toronto to Newfoundland just specifically on price then and affordability.
Some of it was, yeah. So, I mean, you'd sell a house up there for 1.2, come here, buy like the really nicest house for 600 and have 600 in the bank to retire on. So, I mean, there were people who made those financial choices. I kind of say, well, wait till you see our winters, but we've had some pretty mild winters up until now. So,
are they still there 5 years later?
I met a few people who, that like they maybe moved to too much of a rural area, and they'd like to move now to like St. John's, somewhere where there's a little more happening.
Right.
But no, I mean, there has like a lot of people have come and they're happy, and prices are still. I mean, we were the most affordable market in the country. I mean, it's climbed up, but we're still, we're still an affordable market.
Would you say today's market conditions, in terms of, we know inventory is much lower because you had the influx that had to be cleared out as things were heating up? Are prices, like if you look at prices right now in 2026, do you expect them to go up more this year than they did in 2021 because you had that inventory that had to be absorbed still?
Yeah. I mean, I think they will. I mean, right now we're at like record low inventory, but I'm expecting, we've got a harsh winter. So I think when the snow melts, you will see more come to market, and typically people will build, they have a house to sell. So, I mean, I'm hoping new construction will come back a little more than it has been. It is going up, but we're still well below the demand. So I do expect prices to go up. But the issue that we're finding now is people only qualify for so much. So like they'll be qualified for a certain amount. And what you could easily have bought a house for those prices, where now it's getting, what they're getting for their money is not what they're expecting, I guess is the best way to put it. So maybe you would have been in a detached home, now you're moving into a duplex. Like those sort of things are the conversations we're going to have to start having with, people to set their expectations, I guess, of what they're going to get.
Sounds familiar, eh, Steve?
It sounds familiar.
It caught up to you guys, yeah.
Many years ago, though,
I
right?
kind of know what you guys went through. It's like I've always heard about this market, but I've never actually been in it. So it's a different world.
We went from being like, okay, yeah, there's people that are like, I want to buy a house, to like, okay, I got to settle for something else, to I'll buy anything I possibly can get my hands on, right? To now, I don't really want to buy anything, right? Like our sales numbers are absolutely through the floor, even though prices are also through the floor. People just keep holding off. So I took a little gander on around Gander on realtor.ca, and I noticed like almost everything it appeared like there was just building lots like crazy. Like a lot of the realtor.ca listings are just lot, like are subdivisions popping up? Is it just that time of year because the ground's frozen, nobody's interested, or why are there so many lots available?
Yep. So we've had some big subdivisions put in. So I counted on GIS. I think there's roughly 100 lots right now you could build a house on that's available. So that's the most land we've had available. So last year there was, I will say, around 30 houses built. So like I was on the Affordable Housing Committee for the town of Gander like a decade ago. And we recognized there was over 1,000 people driving to Gander for work every day because they couldn't afford, like the service industry doesn't pay a lot, especially here in Newfoundland. So they would commute in to work. So we recognized there was a housing affordability issue even back then. And so now it's like totally on steroids what we're dealing with. So, but there is a lot of land available. So it's good. And we got the half money from the federal government. So I think it's almost all gone actually. So there has been some units built, which is helping. And then in order to get that money, they had to rechange their zoning. So much like you guys in BC now, you can build a multifamily anywhere in Gander, where like it used to be my backyard. And so we hadn't built a lot. So there was like 2 4-plexes went up last year. And there's a big apartment building going up. It's like the first time in decades we've had a new apartment building built in Gander. So the town is growing. I mean, that's another thing about Gander is we're the only community, one of the only communities outside of, say, St. John's, which is growing. That's growing, and the population is not shrinking because we just have an aging population. A lot of people have gone away. So a lot of these communities are struggling because there's not a lot of employment anymore with the fishery. So people, like, there's an urbanization of Newfoundland happening where people are leaving the smaller communities and moving into more major centers.
Is it growing because of the interprovincial migration, or are people just popping out more kids than they're passing away right now?
No, our fertility rates aren't really bringing people in. More employment, and then also the provincial government has a program with India, where our healthcare system was really struggling for employees. So now they will take credentials from India. They can come here and they can work in our hospital. So we're seeing a major influx of immigration and first-time Canadians and stuff like that. And so they come here, get a job, they can apply for a mortgage, get approved for a mortgage, and they can afford to buy a house. So we do have an influx of our population is going up in Newfoundland for the first time in probably a decade, which is helping bring everything back around, I guess.
Those doctors have to live somewhere, right?
That's right.
Probably at pretty reasonable salaries, and that's probably pushing up the prices just because you increase the average
and
income.
Like nursing and everything. So and the Memorial University here in Newfoundland started a nursing program. So year 1 was like 20 students, year 2 was 40 students, year 3, and you can go to year 4. So we had 120 students that are now in Gander. I mean, the university didn't build a residence, so we had to find a place for 120 students now. We just had our first graduating class last year. So now there's like this big nursing program that's happening here in Gander. So it's putting a lot of pressure on the housing market. Like our rental market is, I would say, negative vacancy, not
really. And so our rental prices are pushing up too right now?
Rental prices are going up. I've been a landlord for like 15 years and rent has basically been like steady. And so now we're starting to see it increase just because there is nowhere for people to go.
You're the 1+ category on the rentals.ca reports that come out where they show starting rent and it's all just negatives everywhere. You're the one of the few markets that's increasing, right?
We're like absolutely coming in the opposite direction of everyone else. It's strange.
And what is the rental inventory? You mentioned they're building the first apartment building in a long time. That's probably fueled by the MLI Select program, how that got financed and how it's coming into place. Is it like what? I assume, and this might be a really like ignorant comment, like, is there condos? Does that exist? Is there like low rise? Is it just, are you renting housing, like freehold housing? What is it?
There is one condo building, a very small one here in Gander.
Okay.
Mom had actually tried to do a condo many years ago down by the lake, overlooking the lake and the golf course. and she had collected all the deposits, but like she needed to get that 60% sold and never quite got there, and had to, it was a little bit ahead of its time. I think it's too bad that it didn't happen, because we would love to have it now, right?
It'd be great now. And so you just said mom. So for people that don't know, can you give us the background story of the family in real estate that got you here today?
So mom has been in the business. Her only job has been real estate. So she got into trade school and started to work at a real estate office. Her broker pushed her to get her license, and that's all she's ever done. So she's been selling real estate for 50 years, over 50 years.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. And then you kind of took over the brokerage. I think that was recent that you became a broker owner, right? That you were selling mostly before
during
that.
COVID, I used to get up in the morning and study for my broker's exam, because I just had to pass that course so mom could eventually retire. So I used to get up in the morning and have to get like my studying done before 9, when like the phone would just go crazy. So I passed the test in 2022. And then I think in 2023 is when we actually switched me to broker with the board. But I mean, I've been helping run the office for 20 years, probably even more. I built the first real estate website in Gander in 98. So I've been helping mom sell real estate for a very long time.
What does mom think about AI in the real estate industry, and how that's going to displace us, and like all the crazy things? Even like I saw you were posting about it. You used some word I've never even heard of before about what you did to your website, vibe coding. I'm like, I got to learn.
I didn't know what it was last week either.
Yeah.
So because like I studied computers, I studied computer science at Dell for a year when I first went to university. And so I do have a programming background, but now you can tell AI what you want, and then it'll do a lot of the programming for you, and then you tweak it and back and forth. And so they call it vibe coding. So anyway, I vibe coded my website last week. So
sounds cool. I've seen some examples. I don't know how good they are yet, where essentially like an AI agent, and they're running on their own computer, so they're not mixed up with your files, is like logging into real estate systems, taking screenshots of comparables, and then putting together like amazing reports that are visually great to send to your sellers. And I think if it's not already here already, for this is every industry, there's got to be some AI regulation that comes in, because these agents, these AI agents, whether this is vibe coding, I don't know exactly what this is called, they're signing into systems that people pay to have access for, and it's like it's not a real person, it's an AI agent. So I think that's an interesting. I don't know if you want to go to that topic today, but that's been interesting to me.
I was watching something on the news last night, and they're saying that the majority of software users are going to be AI agents and not people, right? So it's like the whole software industry, the whole world really needs to figure out what parameters we're putting around AI, because it's here. I've been using it now, like even in the last year, just its capability. And like now that it's kind of like they've all been in their own little silos, and now they're starting to be able to talk to each other. So you can have this one deal with this, like this one's good at this one's good at that. So now they're actually like linking together, and you can do things with them. And it's a brave new world we're in right now.
The Tom Storey Show is brought to you by Realty Ninja. If you're a real estate agent and you don't have a website you are proud of, you need to check out Realty Ninja. Steve's been using them for over a decade. Their websites are beautiful. They are affordable. They will combine the theme that you already have. And more than anything else, in these market conditions, you have to showcase your clients' properties the absolute best that they can be, because not everything is selling. And having a website that's clunky doesn't work in 2026. Realty Ninja is a sponsor of this show, and they're happy to announce that they're giving Tom Storey Show listeners 20% off their first year. It's a fantastic opportunity for people in the real estate industry that are looking to level up their marketing, having beautifully built websites with IDX incorporated into it, and everything you would ever need. And the best part, you don't pay a dime until your website launches. So go to realtyninja.com/Tom for 20% off your first year. Did you hear they all got together and they made their own religion? I'm not even joking.
There's like a forum where they're all talking, and then all of a sudden they're like, the humans are watching what we're doing.
Crazy, right? It's oh my god. I didn't get to see you a few weeks ago at the summit. I don't think you came into town, but we had a presentation of an AI voice caller, And I'm like still not sure how I feel about all this. And I'd be interested to see the people listening to this today, like whether it was your dentist or your doctor or your car salesman or your real estate agent, if somebody called you that sounded like them and it wasn't them and you didn't know, how would you feel about it? Would you like, I think if it's my doctor's office and they call and they go, hey, this is the AI chat for Dr. X. We're calling you about your next appointment. Here's the 2 slots available. Say which one you want. We'll book you in. Cool, right? Because they've announced it and it's just booking an appointment. But if I'm having like a real conversation with someone and I don't know till after the fact, because this technology, it's there. It's right there. Like 95% of the way, it's going to get really close where we have no idea who we're actually talking to, if they're a real person or not.
No,
how do you feel about that?
There's going to have to be a lot of disclosure, and I know just with like photography and just we're soon not going to know what's real and what's not. Like you won't physically, you know what I mean? You watch the news now and it's like, is that real? Is that not? It's like, it's hard to tell sometimes.
I can't figure out right now how the real estate boards are not already at the spot where there's like a mandatory watermark if a photo has been AI'd or not, right? Because, I mean, we are doing a lot of vacant properties. We virtually stage a lot of properties right now, and it's fantastic. By the way, Gemini, if anybody's doing it, is crushing in that space right now over top of the other AIs. They're just doing fantastic on even the free version. But the real estate boards aren't mandating some sort of watermark or something to say that that's what's been done. I'm not just seeing furniture being put in a room though. Last week I saw a full kitchen, living room, fully renovated house.
What it could be
for the first 4 or 5 pictures, and then the next 4 or 5 pictures were a shithole that nobody would ever freaking buy. And it's like, but now you're not advertising the property you're actually selling. You're selling what might be in the future, right? That's like saying, oh yeah, my house has a view of the ocean. You just got to build 2 more stories on top of it first.
If you go in a dating profile and put a 6-pack picture, it's like, well, I could look like this if I just worked out really hard and ate healthy for the next 16 months.
But Tom, I started
my potential. You're selling potential.
I started an experiment here in my business, and I was putting together evaluations with AI. So I was taking the listings, I was inputting them, and then asking AI to put together a market analysis for me, of which is hilarious because their pricing is like, your seller should take this much money. And I'm like, okay, you
tell them that.
Yeah. But it formatted a beautiful evaluation, better than I ever could have done myself if I spent 8 hours on it, and it probably did it in 10 minutes. Of which those reports that I then sent out to prospective clients, none of those people called me back. None of them. So all of the people over I've got record high listings in my business right now, more than I've ever had in my career, and I have no problem getting listings. But the ones that I send the AI reports to, they were like out. Why? Probably because humans aren't quite ready for it yet. There needs to be a little bit human touch in there still. Maybe they could sniff out the fact that it was done that way, or maybe they were overwhelmed by the information and it was too polished, right? That's why a lot of podcasts don't do too well, and ours does not bad, because we are not too polished, right? Like, you got to meet people where they are, and people want to, I don't think they are ready for it. Now, the computer programmers that make AI or interact with AI all day, they're going to want that service, and there will be a company out there that does it. But the majority of people are not those people. So they're going to want to come back, and they're going to want Mike to sit at their dining room table and actually tell them what's going on in the market while they hopefully have a green beer together or something like that, right? Like, they want that interaction, and they want to know that they're dealing with a human.
They just don't want to deal with you. You're the human they don't want to deal with, Steve. I think that's the common.
No, they do want to deal with me more than the AI. That's what I'm saying.
All right.
Even me.
Let's move on from AI. Let's talk about the market again. Mike, Newfoundland is the island and Labrador is the mainland, correct? For a rookie like me, is that how it's actually set up? Because I know they changed it a few years, or maybe it's been longer than a few years.
So Toronto, Tom.
I'm being honest. I'm being truthful. I just I want to know for listeners and viewers.
And British Columbia is on the west coast, Tom.
So you would be considered the mainland.
Okay.
probably Upper Canada, actually, is what you would be called.
Sounds nice.
Labrador is the big land, right? That's
big
that's
land.
how it's the big lands. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. I want to talk about some specific issues that are actually happening that are not directly real estate related, but things that you had chatted with me about and said, like, we should talk about this. These are big things that are happening. So I'm going to say this wrong, but Ottawa covering the international royalty payments for Bay du Nord project, which I believe is oil. Explain to us why this is so important, what this is, and how this can help the economy and potentially housing prices.
So we have offshore oil here in Newfoundland. We've had it for a while. I mean, you'd Hibernia, Hebron, White Rose now. So this is further out. So it's gone to the Flemish Pass, and it's a deeper. It's a whole new type of oil extraction off the coast of Newfoundland, first in Canada. But it also crosses the limit where it will be considered ours. So now it falls under this United Nation. I don't know the exact terminology, but
Sure.
So this will be the first project that will need to pay royalties to whatever it's going to be. I mean, this is all brand new. So it's sort of been a sticking point for all the partners and how it's going to work. So I think now they've sort of in the last week or so come to an agreement of how that's going to be handled. And it looks like the project, we'll know next year, but it's looking very good that project may finally happen. So that'll be a big boost in employment. You know, it's a lot of work for people. Yeah.
That's got to be thousands of potential jobs being created for something at that scale, no?
Yeah. So these big projects, we've had them before. What happens is you have the construction phase, which is like boom town, right? So that's when everything is going, there's lots of jobs, there's money flowing, and then everyone gets used to that. And then what happens is the job is done, and then it's like layoffs.
Right.
It's just, so it's this boom bust cycle, right? So it looks like there's going to be more to this, which is going to create more long-term stable employment. So they're learning from past mistakes to get more things in the deals so that it just doesn't go boom and then bust. And then you always have the jobs. Like I've got friends that go out onto the offshore oil rigs and, they make a good living, but it's not the same amount of employment as building the platform and the work that leads into getting it up and running, right? So that's sort of what happens with these projects.
I mean, it sounds pretty positive if this goes through. You're looking at creating all these different jobs. You already mentioned you have record low supply. Like, sounds like we're pretty bullish on your market with the jobs and the inventory and everything else going on right now. Sounds like the one place in Canada that's like probably going to do really well for the next few years for housing. If you're not, because you mentioned no one's building anything other than like one apartment building.
Yeah, here locally. I mean, there is building. It's just nowhere near keeping up with demand, right? So we're way behind the eight ball at this point for the amount of demand that we're going to have and what's coming, and then how quickly we're building is just not lining up at all.
What does it cost me? So if I call you up and say I'm making the move, I'm bringing my family, I got a job in the area. What do I get for what amount of money in Gander?
So I pre-COVID, I would say $350. You get a really nice brand new house.
So that's how many square feet?
That would be like your split entry. So like 1,400 square foot per level, developed basement, nice size yard, everything. So after now we're looking at 450 to 550, I think is the range. So prices have gone up on average about 100,000 easily since COVID. And like I was talking to one of my team members, we were getting ready to do a listing the other day, and it's like nobody's income went up that extra $100,000. So it's like we're starting to feel the pressure of people, what they qualify for and what they can buy. So this is where this kind of disconnect is starting to show, where people are expecting a certain house, and now it's like because prices have gone up so high so quick, it's like, oh, now I don't qualify for that house anymore. So we are seeing just the expectations of people need to change, I think.
And if we know incomes haven't changed, obviously we had crazy low interest rates for a period. They're no longer there. What other levers were happening there other than the people coming in from other markets with a bunch of cash? Like, how did the prices go up that fast if the incomes haven't kept up?
Interest rates certainly helped.
Yeah.
I mean, that really pushed, because like anybody, like we have a military base here. I have people coming going from all over Canada. So there's 150 on like a 3-year rotation. So they come from different markets. And I mean, I always told them, listen, buy a house for 350. I have no trouble reselling it in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whenever you leave. But now they're not getting much for 350. So now that's probably now 450, right? So those things have changed. And I mean, it's just, and I mean, when I bought my first house, I qualified for a lot more than what I bought. So, it's just trying to be in a position where you're not house poor, you're financially have money to do, Yeah, I mean, I do see it, especially the lower market, right? Like people who don't have a great salary are finding it very hard to buy a house.
And then rentals prices are going up at the same time. So that's got to be a double whammy, right? Are you finding, and Steve, I want to ask you this too. Like what I've noticed in my business so far this year is, Steve, you're going to say you have no buyers, but I know you are working with some buyers, even though you have 1 million listings right now. But the first time home buyers in my market, they are reaching out to us like crazy right now. Like very interesting. There are a huge portion of my business. We'll get to Steve in a sec, but Mike, is our first time home buyers getting into the market still? Is that a big part of what's happening with the demand right now?
Yeah, I mean, we've got way more buyers than we have listings. So I'm used to actually carrying more listings than what's on the market. It's like it's a very strange time, So yeah, I mean, and we're also telling people like we're buried in snow. It's been a harsh winter. There will be more inventory. You're just going to have to be a little patient and wait until we get some inventory to market. Because I mean, like I tell the agents, we sit around in the winter and it's slow and everybody's talking about it. It's like, well, spring always comes.
Right.
I've had this 16 years and it just hits the ground running and we're busy right up until Christmas. So
this episode is brought to you by Carson Dunlop. I would argue that having a great home inspector is as important, maybe even more, than having a great real estate agent. If you're buying a property that's hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, you got to have somebody on your side that you can trust, that can go through the home and explain things to you in a way that you can understand. And also, if there's any major red flags, make sure that you're aware of it before moving forward with your purchase. Carson Dunlop is a company that's been around for a long time, and top real estate agents trust it for their clients all across Canada. Go to carsondunlop.com to book your inspection now. In the city of Toronto, where I work, wherever I see a Carson Dunlop home inspection, from a pre-listing inspection from a seller, I know my buyers can trust it. carsondunlop.com.
I just want everybody to understand what you said, though. You just said, I am used to carrying more listings than what's on the market now altogether.
Which is crazy.
Like, that is an insane statement for anywhere else in the country, particularly now, but at any point in time. Like, do you have are you and your mom the only realtors in Gander, or there's anybody else?
No, but I mean, we're used to having hundreds of listings, and now we have like if you moved again right now, there might be 10 houses I could show you in all price ranges.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's like it is really, really abnormal.
And Steve might have more active listings than your whole market has active listings right now in Surrey, BC.
16 right now at the moment. Most I've ever had in my career on the market at any one time. Thankfully, a couple are getting offers. Tom, to answer your question, first-time buyers right now, 0. Buyers that we do have are all connected to listings, and that's almost none. The scary part that I'm seeing right now in my market is, of the 16 listings that I have, 3 of them have a buyer connected when they sell. The other 13 are
they're all... But are they buying somewhere or just not with you? Like, are they just leaving your market and buying somewhere else?
It's all of it. I've got estates. I've got investment properties that are cashing out. I've got people that bought. Here's a concept I didn't think about until I was actually just doing this analysis. I have a lot now people that bought, say, on Vancouver Island in 2021 in the frenzy. Now they're set to retire, or now they're like, I want to get out of this craziness or whatever. So they were taking from inventory before, but not adding to inventory.
Right.
Now they're adding to inventory and not taking from inventory. So that's causing all of those extra listings. But estates, there's a couple, I wouldn't say too many, but there's some financial people that are choosing to rent after.
Yep.
But like if I have 3/4 of my listings being no buy side, then chances are I'm not the anomaly in the marketplace. So chances are that other people are doing the same thing, which is why we got so many listings. Now, I don't feel like we actually have that many listings right now. They're not coming on at a rapid pace. However, our stats came out. And guess what? We came off of the worst year of all time. Or this, what did Brendan say? The worst year of the century. There's only been 25 because we're only that far. But
Yeah.
the worst year of the century, and we're already 15% below
Lower.
last year's sales.
That's sales, not what about prices?
Sales year to date. Oh, no, you don't even want to know prices. Prices are, so I just sold my condo in an area, and I looked, so I was like, oh, I wonder what prices have done. Prices in the area that I sold year over year, average, not benchmark, but average price was down 19.1% in condos.
Okay, but how many sales were there? If there's like 8 sales, I don't care because it's not enough data.
Okay. 10 sales last year, 10 sales this year.
Still 10 sales, and we're using average. That can be skewed so either direction. Mike, back me up here.
No, listen, I deal with it all the time because some of these rural areas you'll have, and even in Gander sometimes, you might have one house that sat on the market for a long time and closes. Also, days on market just like skews way out. And it's like, you've got to take the anomalies out because one sale into high or low can really skew our numbers. So I try to look at the whole year as a whole because then I normally get enough data where I can see a trend. But yeah, you do, especially smaller markets. You got to be careful of reading too much into a number for a month or two because it might just be not enough data.
So end of 22, 23. So let's say if the way you're tracking the year of 2023, was that your low point in the market? Because for us, that was actually still much higher than we are now. So like, you're higher than 23, 24, and now 25 today.
So when interest rates spiked, our sales slumped, right? So people just froze the market. So we came off of the COVID highs. So you had, record high 2021, broke the record in 2022. And then 2023, we had a real drop because interest rates, but like prices held, but sales dropped. And then 2024 improved. In 2025, we're not up to COVID levels, but we're up to, like this would be the best year on record outside of COVID, I guess is the best way to explain it. So
for number of sales
and price. So, I mean, price just sort of flatlined and then started going up again. So we've had a pretty big run up in price.
So what's going on with investment? Because if I'm hearing everything you're telling me right now, I'm hearing rent. There's not enough to choose from on the rental side. Rental prices are going up. Home prices are going up. You guys are actually growing as a community where most places in Canada aren't. Are people looking at this now and calling you and go like, I want to buy strictly as an investment? Because like, tell me, can you buy a house, a duplex with 20% down and it's cash flowing in your market still based on today's interest rates and rent? Are people buying, or maybe they're buying just because of potential increases in value moving forward based on our conversation today? Is that coming in, or is it an end user market right now for most transactions?
It used to be. So this is where I think rent prices going up. So we've always been able to cash flow investment property here. It's been, and there'd be no reason not to. Like, you're not looking at huge appreciations.
Sure.
So if it didn't cash flow, you wouldn't buy it. But with the way prices went up and rent is going up, but it hasn't caught up. So like right now, it's hard to cash flow. Like there was a time when you could like build a brand new house with a basement apartment and then cash flow it. But now you'd be hard pressed to get enough rent to do that. So there's a little bit of a disconnect right now. But like these fourplexes, like the multiplexes, I think is where you could put up like a fourplex now, and then you could rent that out, property manage it, and you could cash flow, no trouble. You know what I mean? So you've got to put more units, which we're not used to, but now with the new zoning, you could. So I think that's probably what's coming next for Gander is a little more multifamily, which when I said I was on the housing affordability committee,
Yeah.
we recognized that 10 years ago, but nothing was done. So now it looks like something's actually going to be done. So it'll help two things: the housing stock, the rental stock, and people can invest and make money.
That's super interesting because if you're an investor in Toronto, I know, Steve, your market's a little bit different with the multifamily stuff that's really kind of booming right now still in terms of applications. The idea would be like, if you're an investor here, you buy something that's already available, where your response there was like, hey, maybe if you're an investor here, you build something first. You're actually building the housing to then rent out, and then it's going to cash flow. You're not buying a resale listing and just renting it out and turning it into an investment. You're building something new. That's interesting, right? Because that wouldn't be the conversation in most places in Canada right now, just based on the cost of construction and building the thing.
And our cost of construction is much higher, but I do think, I know some people have done it. The numbers do work, but it's new for us. I mean, so this is really new, where you can put up a fourplex. I mean, we had them back in the 80s, whenever it was. There's a bunch around town, but they haven't been built in decades, right? So this is something that I think is starting to come back into something that makes sense.
And I think you'd mentioned previously that like 2 of them have been built. So that will...
Yeah, like in my subdivision where I live, I can see them, drive by them. You would never have seen that a couple of years ago.
Are people complaining about them like they are in Steve's market?
No, I mean there was. So they're trying to do infill. There's a lot more pushback on infill because you've had this green space in your neighborhood forever, and now they're going to turn it into multifamily. Like there's been a lot of pushback about that, but in a new subdivision where somebody's building, I mean there hasn't really been that same sort of not in my backyard mentality.
Because those 100 lots for sale, you'd assume that's what's going to be built on them, no? Based on this conversation today, right? That could be
always in single family. Like if you look back at, I mean, when you see like apartments, a lot of those, we had a lot of senior apartments built. So like senior cottages, they're called, where the snow clearing's done for you, the lawn mowing's done. So you're basically renting, and it's a senior community, like a full street, stuff like that. So those went well. And then what happened was all those seniors had to sell their houses. So that's why we sort of had this, I mean, we did have a flood of listings for a while, and the pendulum's gone too far. So, I mean, I know what the market you guys are in. Like, I mean, I remember a double buyer's market. We had like 12 months of inventory, and I mean, it was just like crazy. I mean, you had to price your house right. You had to do all the right things because, we were still selling, 100 something houses in Gander because the houses were selling, but there might have been 200. So you had to be priced properly, listed properly, because like I had military house hunters, I could show them 20 houses on the trip, and we would whittle it down. Where like the last house hunting trip I did, I had 1 house to show them, and by the time they got here, I found 2 more. So I showed them 3 houses. It's like, take your pick, and you better pick quick. It's gonna be gone.
Crazy.
Tom, have you ever done that? Have you ever done RCMP or military transfers?
No, I was always envious of my other realtor friends that did, because some people would be like, I do 60 sales a year because of this program, where they show up and they're like, you're buying one of these, like you just mentioned, we're buying a house this week. This is like, as a business owner, that's the best thing ever.
It's the
we do in 6 months, you do in 6 days, right?
Yeah.
And they're all like, I call them professional buyers and sellers. I mean, they're great clients because they've done it, they know the process. It's just like, okay, let's do it, right? So, it's an intensive week though. You've got to put your time in. I mean, normally, and like in my town, you can get everywhere in 10, 15 minutes. So I would book like all these showings and like, are we going to be able to do it? I'm like, don't worry. And we would jump in the car. And so the first day I actually get them to cross off what they didn't like. Like, okay, cross those off because there's going to be a house for you. So I was like, didn't like the backyard, didn't like this, didn't like that. And then we would whittle it down. So we go back to the office and then we would get the second showing. So then the second showing I would book for like a half an hour. And then during the second showing, we would pretty much know the top 3. So we're going to offer on this one. If this doesn't work, we'll go to number 2. So it's just a process. And, we would have the sold sign on the lawn before they got back on the plane, it would take 7 days, right? And you would have a house sold.
Tom, you don't even get it. Like usually, like we haven't done a lot of them lately. I used to do 4 or 5 a year at least RCMP, right? So what happens is you'll get the call and you're like, I'm moving there, I'm getting transferred there. They have I believe it's 6 days technically, unless they've changed it. It was 6 days to fly in, offer, buy the house, and fly back out because they got to get back to their job. So that's their thing. They're allowed to apply for like extra time if they come close or there's whatever, but they can't do it until like the last day. So they fly in. Often they come straight from the airport to your office. And then it's like, we're spending 6 hours together. And maybe the next morning, you're like, okay, after that 6 hours, if you don't find a house that you like, the next morning they drive around all the neighborhoods to check them all out. And this might, in my area, it might be between 12 different cities, right? Like that's the areas of which they're looking. And then you go out the second afternoon, you see the other 7 to 10 houses they want to see, and they're picking one. Mm-hmm. So you just did all of your showings that you would normally do over 4 weekends in less than 2 business days, and then you're picking one. And now you have to get the financing sorted, which I find they're usually pretty solid financing, right? Good government jobs, right? Lots of backing, that sort of thing. They're also rule followers, so they get their stuff all together. And then we're doing like inspection tomorrow, and sometimes financing will take another 4 or 5 days. So they'll fly out, and then you're sitting there doing the rest of the due diligence with them just virtually, and they got to arrange like the deposit to be picked up at a bank locally or something like that. So it's a whirlwind.
Talk about a motivated seller. Like that's more like they're moving. Like actually, maybe is there something in that? Is like if you know a listing on the market is a military transfer, your buyer might get a slightly better deal because they're selling this thing. Like is that a
just
thing?
Happened in the condo that sold before mine in my complex was an RCMP transfer. And I just happened to know that because of the relation. Mm-hmm. And I was like, they sold for way less than most people. They sold for less than I did because they were very, very motivated. However, guess who pays their real estate fees? All of
government?
Us.
The government.
No, the government has no money, Tom. Okay, I don't know how to tell you.
The government pays them through us.
Money. The government has my money. The government has Mike's money. The government has no money. Hey, so they're paying with us.
Did you see there's a thing that went viral that there's more real estate agents on the Toronto Real Estate Board than total members of the Canadian military across all of Canada? Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Hey, ours are dropping. Our membership at my board is dropping upwards of, I want to say 5% in the last 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, so we're going to go from 73,000 to 71,000. That's going to be our drop, but still a crazy amount of people. Mike, I wanted to ask you about this energy from Churchill Falls, this agreement that my understanding was initially, so Quebec's benefiting from it. It was supposed to be a 100-year agreement, but now things have changed and you're trying to renegotiate. Can you explain? I know this isn't housing, but I feel like this is an interesting...
Rip the Band-Aid off right now.
Okay. So tell me, what is this? What's going on here? If you're looking to make a move anywhere in the greater Vancouver area or the Fraser Valley, you gotta call my co-host, Steve Karrasch. His team knows what they're doing. They're experienced, they're professional. I think more importantly than anything in today's market conditions, like they're direct, they're straightforward, they're honest with their clients about what it takes to buy at the right time or sell before the market keeps changing. And I've known Steve for a long time. Obviously, we make little jabs at each other on this show, but I can say with certainty that if you know anybody that's looking to move into the greater Vancouver area, specifically the Fraser Valley, you got to give Steve and his team a call.
So it's a long-standing contract, right, that was signed. So, I mean, at the time, I'm sure it made sense because it was getting this big hydro project going. But there was no escalator clause, no inflation clause. So like they're paying the same rates as they paid back in '69. So you can imagine how much things have changed, right? Mm-hmm. So it's been a really, really, really sore point between Newfoundland and Quebec. And I did French immersion, so I'm not here to badmouth Quebec, but they're getting their power basically for free, right? So let's just do that. So, It's gone to the Supreme Court 2 or 3 times, but I mean, we all make our living through contract law. Like contract's a contract. Supreme Court says no, you've agreed to it. So we're basically running the clock until it's over. So what's happening is it is sort of coming to an end. So I think it's 41, whatever it is.
Yep.
But in the grand scheme of things, it has happened long before then because they can't just all of a sudden not have power. So Quebec needs to decide, are we going to go nuclear? Are we going to make this work? So we've sort of worked now together. And I mean, eventually this war between Newfoundland and Quebec has to come to an end. So hopefully we will come to an agreement that works for both provinces. And we can, the Gull Island that they're talking about is probably the last big hydro project in North America, right? So this would be another big project, much bigger than Bay du Nord. And provide a lot of electricity. Like we're talking about AI, like these data centers, and so like this is a very real project that I think all of Canada would really benefit from. So hopefully we can get to the table, negotiate, and put the past behind us and move forward and get this project going because it's a very big project.
Because the recent news out of the Quebec minister was saying that this contract cannot fail, which of course I would assume, of course, if you're getting a great deal in energy, of course.
We had an election, and I think the people of Newfoundland felt like this deal, because this is an MOU at this point, it's not a deal, but they really felt like it was pushed down our throats, moving too fast, and it's like, whoa, wait, we've just been through this really bad deal. I feel like you're pushing us into another. So, the election, the Conservatives won, so they've right now got a 3 panel that are reviewing it and kind of they just want to do their due diligence, I guess, before we get into another big 50-year contract with Quebec and make sure it's the right deal and that sort of thing. So I'm still hoping, I mean, it will happen. It's just how it happens and how quickly and those sort of things. So
a lot of
it's been a real sticking point for Newfoundland and Labrador.
Sounds like there's quite a few like controversial-ish issues, depending on what side you are on, going on locally for you guys now for the last little while, right between these two things we chatted about today.
Yeah, and like we're kind of landlocked, if you know what I mean. We're an island, and then Labrador's connected to Quebec, so I mean, we can't get our resources to market real easy. So like a lot of that power is being sold to the Americans. You've got a lot of aluminum being made in Quebec because they're getting the power from Churchill Falls basically for nothing. So how do you compete with that? You know what I mean? So
interesting. Steve, did you know about any of this before today?
I'm going to get a lot of for that one.
Well, it's a fact, I guess.
Nobody in Quebec listens to us. No, I heard about it, and I know that it's a big deal. Like, I mean, Quebec's been getting a pretty good ride from a lot of Canada for a lot of years. Alberta's doing the same thing. They're literally taking your power, but they're taking the money from the power out of Alberta. So it's, I don't know. It's not, there's lots of craziness going on out there. Hopefully, what I am hopeful about is the federal government has hopefully done some about faces, and they're starting to fix lots of things. And, that were
it's like
such an issue over the previous 10 years.
Last week, a tanker of LNG from Australia went to St. John, New Brunswick. Because, do you know how much LNG we just flare off in Newfoundland? It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, us too. We've been trying to do the LNG thing here forever and ever, and it seems to be... I actually had a client that was very high up in the LNG plant in Squamish. Port, whatever it was. And... I don't know. We seem to got more energy and we got pretty good excuses why people need good, ethical energy these days. But for some reason, it doesn't seem to be a top priority. Hopefully it is becoming a top priority because they are starting to address things, right? Like I think that here too with, I know it's a while back and it's probably changed since when this comes out. But like we had a whole Aboriginal thing happen here. And my take on that is it's the government stepping in and saying, okay, we can't let this go to crap anymore. I may not like the ideas that they have, but we can't let this keep going down this road because it's, I mean, quite frankly, it almost cost them a massive election loss last time. They realized that all those policies don't make any sense, and that the real working class of this country needs some benefit, right? And it wasn't that way. We were benefiting only the I don't want to. We were the educated, let's call them, right? Like the academics is who we were benefiting before with all of their crazy ideas, and it turns out a lot of those crazy ideas don't work in the real life, and we all want, heated homes and that sort of thing, and heaven forbid we get it. So thankfully, hopefully, I think things are starting to turn around. It sounds like things are rip-roaring for you guys. I don't know about BC and how we're going to go over the next little bit, but it looks like, for instance, with this Aboriginal thing, they didn't consult David Eby at all because he's a crazy activist. And I'm starting to realize that's why they didn't consult him on the pipeline that's going to go straight through our province as well. Right. Ooh. So they're changing their tune. Hopefully everything starts getting a little bit better for everybody. And hopefully our real estate market can start to look a lot more like yours than it does ours right now.
Yeah.
I think we got a few years.
One story I wanted to tell, just to give you, it will come around. So there was a house that I had, and they were retired and they wanted to move, and they had moved. And so the house was sitting there. And this was like when we had way too much inventory. And it's just one of these houses that was a little harder to sell for whatever reason. And so went through winter unsold. And then we went to the next selling season. It didn't sell, which was very unusual. And so what we decided to do was to rent the house out. So we rented the house out. And then COVID hit, so it wasn't that long, but like they rented the house out. So then they called me like, okay, ready to put the house back up. So I used, because nothing had changed, I used the 3D tour, the pictures, just put the house back up on the market. And I had like 5 showings, 3 offers, the house sold above asking, and it was like, did nothing different. It's just the market had completely changed. So it will turn around.
How were houses sitting for like over a year in the previous market? That's what it sounds like. We're like, how long was stuff sitting?
I mean, it was uncommon, and I mean, like we did a high volume of business. It's just there wasn't enough people to buy all the supply, but I mean, there was a lot of houses moving. So, there's always that certain house that for whatever reason takes a while to sell. 2 years is a little dramatic, but there were houses. If you overpriced your house and then all of a sudden you're like, well, I can drop my price. And it's like, yeah, but you missed the whole market. Like the whole military move is done. The local move is done. We're heading into the fall, and we're heading into a long winter. And it's like, there's no one to buy your house. So we just got to wait till next spring. And then typically they would price their house properly and it would sell. And sometimes they would switch to another agent, and not that you did anything wrong. It's just now it's priced properly. It sells right away. So
sounds
there was a bit. I really pushed for people because I didn't really want to take a listing that wasn't going to sell. So I mean, if they weren't going to listen to me and do things properly, then I was kind of like, not, maybe I'm not your agent, right?
But now there's only 10 homes, and you're like, I'll take it.
I will take anything, anything at all. I'll throw you something of that mod.
So, Mike, what's your advice then for us right now? Where I'm trying to figure this out. Like traditionally in my marketplace, if you're not sold in 14 to 21 days, it means you missed on price. Like that's been it. But now, average days on market in most areas is between 35 and 45 days. So now that average days on market is increasing, should we be telling our sellers maybe that it will take more time and we shouldn't be doing our price reductions as fast? Or should you be preparing to slash your price in advance and just get out from under that thing before it keeps inevitably sliding? Because I'm trying to play with this idea of like, what do you do when the overall days of market is slower?
Like, it does take longer to sell. So, I mean, I wouldn't, if it's priced properly, I wouldn't rush to reduce the price. If it's overpriced, yes, but I mean, if you feel like prices are going down, then I mean, waiting is not the right answer, if you know what I'm saying, right? So, I think if it's priced properly, like right now, we're taking a couple listings and they're not selling, but I'm like, we're buried in snow. There's, it's just like, wait a little bit. Like, I think our price is okay. We're not getting a lot of showings because of the weather, because of the time of year. So let's just hold steady and then see what happens, right? So I think it really depends on market conditions. But if you feel that they're priced properly and it's not selling and prices are going down, then yeah, drop the price. It's like catching a falling knife. It's like there's no good way to do it. You just gotta do it.
But if in a downward trending market, if it continues to go down and you don't adjust your price, the market is stealing equity from your home every single month. Like, I think that really is,
like what I tell people, it's like what you want and what the market's going to give you are two different things. And like, it'll never sell. I mean, like I've seen houses sit on the market for 3 years because there's nobody going to buy that house for that price. But there are people who don't have to sell, right? So they're just testing the market. They're just, and I mean, it's just on extension and, whatever. But no, I mean, for us, 60 days, 90 days was not unheard of for days on market on average, but prices were steady. So, I mean, prices weren't going down. They were basically flatlined and it just took longer to sell your house. So that's more of the market that I was in because we didn't really have a huge drop in price. We did for a little bit. So when I got into the business, oil price was like $100 a barrel. We had the big oil boom and then it ended. And then, so we did have a bit of a correction, those sort of things. But like that was that boom bust cycle. So I've never really dealt with what you guys are dealing with that crazy run up in price. And now I think you guys got to find what is the actual price of a house now that the madness is over. And I think you will find bottom and then you will see things will settle out, right?
I think what I've learned is that, you always kind of knew this, but the market, the true real estate market moves independently of anybody's personal situation. Like the market doesn't care about you. And I know that sounds kind of mean to say out loud, but, does the buyer care that you bought in 2021 and you're going to lose money versus someone that undercut you on price, but they bought in 2012, so they probably have the house paid off? And the buyer in the market doesn't care. It is what it is, and it's like getting over that hump of like because some people are in tough situations, right? It's like, well, man, that other person that's selling for lower than me, it's like they're not taking a loss, so of course they can do that. We can't do that. I'm like, yeah, but the market moves independently. It's its own thing. It doesn't matter. It is what it is, right? And that's made for honestly, some really difficult conversations. But I was chatting with Steve about this yesterday about just a specific thing I had gone through recently. But this is it. This is it. And then I don't think for Ontario and BC, like our prices are not going up anytime soon. So you enjoy, Mike, your market, okay? Because even yours isn't going to last forever.
I would pick a balanced market because I've done the too much inventory. Now I'm doing the not enough. It's like, where's that Goldilocks? Like not too hot, not too cold. Like that would be nice.
I would love nothing more than that. I don't think, and I recognize I've been selling as long as you guys, but I'm in year 13. I've never ever sold in a market that has traded sideways. We go up or we go down. We go up or we go down, and it keeps fluctuating. I've never had for more than a 4 to 6 month period of time that prices are trading sideways ever. Like Steve, you must have had that at least early days of your career.
Yeah, probably 2011 through 2014.
Yeah, I started 2014.
Houses were slightly going up and condos were slightly going down for that whole 4 years. So it was very nice because you were like, yeah, maybe we can get 4 or 5 grand off this condo. Maybe we got to pay 4 or 5 grand more for this detached house, but like not craziness. And then when 2015 hit, end of 2014, then the beginning of 2015, that was like, everybody said it was Chinese money. I don't necessarily think it was. It ended up being eventually, but then that's where it really took off for the first time. And then we had the, foreign buyer ban foreign buyer tax. And then it went down. And then like you say, it just went up and down and up and down and up and down, no matter what happens. As Bill said on the podcast when we recorded with him in Toronto, like I don't think there is such thing as a
balanced market actually exist. I've never felt it. Does any buyer seller feel like it's real?
If it's balanced on top of a razor blade, right? Like it seems to be what it is.
Mike, last question, then we'll let you go. This has been such a fun conversation today. For the people that move to your market for the first time, what's the misconceptions that they come into, what it's like to live there or housing prices? Like what's the most common thing you see that they learn that they would have never known before they moved there?
First of all, they don't realize how big the island is. I think a lot of people don't realize how big this island is. From like St. Anthony to like St. John's is a long distance, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the scale of the geography is one thing that they don't really understand. But a lot of people come in thinking they're going to get a house for a lot less than what it actually costs, right? Or when they come here, they see how much more they can get for a little bit more money. So like we don't have a really high, like, like the carriage trade is like, it really doesn't exist. Carriage trade is like 3 times the average sale price, but like there's no such thing as 3 times the average sale price in Newfoundland, right? So double the price would be your luxury market. But like if you add a little bit more, you'll get a whole lot more. And that's what I find a lot of people coming, they end up doing. They have this sort of unrealistic budget. And then when they get here, they're like, oh, if I pay 50,000 more, I can get so much more. And that's what they'll do. So a little bit of unrealistic about what you're actually getting for your money.
And for
do
those
you
that
find
don't know,
people fall into the trap of where they come and they buy too much house and then it's hard to sell on the other side? Because the expensive stuff must be the hardest stuff to sell.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a while to sell. And I mean, I've had luxury listings. I mean, you can say like we might be 2 years, you know what I mean? It's just like you've got to have that person, you know what I mean, that's looking. And I mean, they have sold very quick too, don't get me wrong, but it's like if you're planning to come here and turn around like the military, I mean, there's a certain house, they know what to buy, I know what to sell them, and in 3 years it's no issue, right? So it's just like, here's your standard, most families can live here. But when you get the people that want to come and like live by the ocean and stuff, because I mean, you can get fairly cheap housing out where there's not a lot of industry. So if you're just coming here to retire, but then you're kind of away from hospitals, so you got to really just think about what is there, because I think people think, oh, I can move out here and watch the icebergs, but it's like, yeah, but then you're an hour and a half from Gander, and you got to come an hour and a half to Gander to get everything. So it's like, not everything, but like, there's, and then very, very seasonal as well. So like we have a huge tourist season here. So like in the summer, a place can be like, there's more to do out in Eastport in the summer than there is in Gander, but in the winter, it's like the complete opposite, right? So like Twillingate, there's like 30 restaurants in the summer, where now there's probably 1 if you went out there. So you got to understand how the province kind of works, right?
And just for people to understand, carriage trade, you brought that up. That's a marketing term that LePage uses for the high end properties. And I didn't actually ever know that what it actually was. I guess it's 3 times average price. I didn't know that. Because in Toronto, it's like $6 million listings have that branding on it. And I was looking before, and I think you have one at like 900,000 that's got the same branding. So it's like market specific. Okay, so I'm coming to Gander. I'm coming for an experience. Where am I eating? What's the best restaurants that I'm going to?
Yep. So we're a little better for all time of the year because we're a service hub. So like Gander's a town of 13,000, which you would think is like a village, but we have a service district of about 80,000 that come to Gander for most of what they get. So we've always been called the suburb without a city, right? So we would be a suburb of a city, basically. So the airport has actually a good restaurant. So like we've got the international airport. I mean, the town was actually an airport before a town. There's a local Filipino family that moved here that were in the restaurant business that have a really nice fine dining restaurant here. And then all the hotels, we have a lot of hotels here. They all have dining rooms. So I think people have a misconception about what you would find in a town of 13,000, because in a way, we're a town of like 80,000.
That's interesting. But like to go out for a nice dinner, you're going to a hotel or the airport.
Those are a couple, yeah. And there's a few restaurants and some of the bars. We've got bars that serve food, right? So like, like I'll be drinking green beer and wings and burgers and all that stuff, right?
In between the Guinnesses, you gotta refuel with some actual food, right? Once in a while. Every third big Guinness, you take a bite of your burger. Mike, this was awesome, man. Thanks for coming on the show. And Jameson. We can't forget Jameson. For anyone listening that has more questions, or obviously if you're moving out Mike's way, I'll put his contact information below. Obviously he knows what he's talking about. He's local. You've lived there your whole life?
Yeah, well, I'm well traveled. I lived outside of Newfoundland for 15 years, but yes, I was born and raised and came back. So, yep,
that's awesome.
I've been here since 2013, full time.
Amazing. Well, you didn't lose the accent.
You had to say that, Tom. Yeah, the accent tells you everything you need to know.
Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening on the audio platforms this week. We will see you next week. And Mike, thanks, man. That was so much fun. Bye.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Enjoy your green beers, everybody.